Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, December 9, 2019 Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioner, Cemetery Commissioners meeting. First order of business, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I sign this?
Before we get started,
One. There's five of them.
on behalf of the board and the town administrator's office, with great sadness and shock, we note the passing of Ken Butkevich. Ken was my neighbor in my neighborhood. I used to see him walking his dog all the time. Very shocked when I got that message and I read the obituary. Anybody that follows Dudley for the last 20 or 25 years knows Ken. Passionate, rail trail, passionate conservation guy. I can't tell you how many countless hours Ken put in for this town, how many presentations he gave us, how he was at the State House for something, he was in Southbridge for rail trail, he was at the Heritage Corridor. Ken's passing, huge void for his family, great loss for the town. Ken was a veteran, very quiet about his service. Can't say enough about Ken Butkevich. You know, like I said, I speak for behalf of the board, but members can speak also. We send our sympathies to Ken's family. Sad, sad day. Mr. Siganovich.
I remember when he came before the board and he had when the rail trail was done and he had a large print where he had put things in it of note about the rail trail. And if you told me 5 years ago that I'd enjoy walking on an old railroad bed, I thought you'd be silly, but that inspired me to do that. And I've been on that rail trail probably 5 or 6 times with my girlfriend and my daughter, just going down it. You don't realize how much work he did, how much work was done there until you actually experience it. So the folks at home, I encourage you, if you haven't, please do. Please do.
Mr. Massey.
I'll echo what both of you guys just said. I'll also add that, nothing just gets done. Like big projects, little projects, it always needs somebody with an idea, a drive, and a passion to do those projects. And since all my years on the board, Ken had that passion. I speak similarly with like the guys on the historical committee, something similar, where people care to get stuff done, and Ken's passion was the rail trail and conservation around that. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have that. Partnering with everybody in the community, our legislators in Boston, the highway department, just to make it happen. And what a great guy. He was even on Facebook, and he'd always pipe up from now and again. I think this town should look into, if we haven't already, putting a plaque or naming, the rail trail system in his honor. We need to do something for him in his honor, in my opinion.
Right, even if we, one of those parking areas we have too, we could put a plaque up or a memento that just remembers Ken for everything that he did.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
I don't recollect meeting him, but it set a great example for future generations.
Too, I remember Ken, and Michelle can back me up on this one, when Rail Trail was finally coming to fruition and we were looking for something for the town report. Ken came in with the Indian name, and I am not even going to try to say it because I will butcher it.
I remember that.
He come in with I forget what it was, but Ken had it's like the people in Webster can say Webster Lake. Ken had the Indian name, the Native American name, down to the last syllable. And I can't do it, I'm not going to embarrass myself, but Ken brought a smile to our face. Mr. Paletta.
I had to get up. I mean, we worked hundreds of hours with Ken one-on-one on this project, and I just have to say, I miss him already. What a wonderful man. He unbelievable the amount of work he put into that.
Last big project would have been that bridge, right?
Yeah, he loved it.
We could put a name on that bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he really loved that bridge the way it came out.
Yep. He was all for it, man, 100%. Mr. Fox.
On behalf of the Dudley Conservation Land Trust Committee, we also would like to extend our sincere thanks for everything that Ken did, our deepest sympathy for his family, and Conservation also is going to try to do something in Ken's honor. He will truly be missed, and he did a great service for our board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Anybody else? Joan?
I know something you can do in Ken's honor. The Mill Road Rail Trail is a complete mess. If you could spruce it up a little, I'm sure he would be happy.
Mr. Ruda, make a note, please.
Noted.
Thank you. Thanks, Joan.
And who's gonna be the next Ken to lead us to the next?
I'm not sure one person can do everything that he did, and I'm not trying to overestimate anything. He, like I said, when he come with reports, I was in Boston for this meeting, and I was here for that meeting. I mean, he really, really gave a lot of time to this town.
Sure did.
Appointments, we have none. Resignation, Personnel Board, Mr. Dunn.
You can accept those minutes.
Anything?
Same. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Back up, acceptance of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the minutes of November 18, 2019 as written.
Motion made to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Resignation, Personnel Board, Jim Dunn. We have here a brief email copied from Mr. Fox. Deep regret I submit my resignation effective today. I thank the town for allowing me to serve, but it's time to step down and allow others to serve the town. Make a motion, accept a motion to accept with regret.
Motion made, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made second. Once again, as Mr. Massey put it so eloquently, things don't get done. Jim Dunn, a lot of time on the personnel, a lot of time, he works the elections. He's always around, especially since he's been retired, and always with the, you know, when Jim Dunn was in the room, is in the room, not was, is in the room, and we're still gonna see him in the room.
Fantastic guy, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just gonna take a quick vote, and then I'll have the personnel chair speak. All in favor of accepting with regret, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Mr. Fox.
On behalf of the Personnel Board, we would like to say thanks to Jim. Jim will certainly be missed. Jim is a classic example of somebody volunteering his time and services to the town, and he was a wonderful member for the Personnel Board and will truly be missed. We wish him excellent health, improvement on his issues, and we'll stay in touch with him. Hopefully, he'll be back.
How do you want to go about filling his spot?
What?
How do you want to go about filling his spot?
We're going to have to advertise and see if there be other volunteers. Obviously, there are several boards that are looking for people to volunteer, and
Right.
Personnel Board's a great board to work on, so we hope we get somebody soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Thank you, Peter.
Next up, public comment, citizen comments, informational, anybody wishing to be heard, not on the agenda, that does not require a vote. You seeing none. Town Administrator's Report, Mr. Ruda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go quickly over my report from 12/2, from the last meeting that was canceled because of the snow, and I think I've probably touched base with most members of the board about what's going on. Camden Partners that is proposing to put a 164 unit complex, residential unit complex in the old Stevens Mill is working now. We've met and we're working with town council towards some options that may be available relative to zoning for that project. That's covered a little more thoroughly in my notes that everybody has.
Yep.
Our cybersecurity grant has gone out to RFP, and Michelle has collected 20 as of this afternoon responses. So I intend to open those on, they'll be accepted through December 20th. They're available, the public notice is available on our website and in Combis, and my intention is to open them probably on Christmas Eve. We had our conflict of interest training. It was attended, it was given by KP Law. It was attended by about 37 people. It sounds like a lot of people, but I had hoped for a larger turnout for that. but I would certainly encourage those who are not able to attend to look at the link posted on our webpage, the town's webpage, particularly if you're an employee, volunteer, elected official. I think it's some important information I'd like everybody to be familiar with. And then finally, the CDBG grant, the Competitive Community Development Block Grant. I've partnered on behalf of the town with Central Mass Regional Planning Commission to apply for Dudley to be part of a Competitive Community Development Block Grant through the Commonwealth. The grant provides for a housing rehabilitation program for income-eligible Dudley residents for up to $40,000 per housing unit to perform necessary repairs to their homes, such as roof repair, septic, windows, doors, painting, siding, plumbing, and electrical upgrades, hot water tank and furnace repair, essentially vital repairs that would be needed to have somebody be able to remain in their home. And I think it's a great opportunity for the town to use its ability to secure funding to bring relief to income-eligible residents in a meaningful way, and there will be an informational session about the program in the Senior Center starting at 12 noon during lunch on Monday, December 16th, 2019. There's also information posted on the website, on the signboard. It's on cable access, and as the thing gets underway, we're going to be knocking on doors to let residents know, income-eligible residents know that this program and money is available to them. So I encourage the board to help me publicize this and let those most vulnerable residents become aware of this program and hopefully take advantage of it. It's a good deal.
Certainly is.
And then, you know, we had our past week, last week was pretty eventful between the dates of 12/1 and the early morning hours of 12/6. I wanted to bring some facts to the board's attention. Our highway department plowed 166 lane miles of town-accepted roads and some privates, and the highway superintendent will go over some of that during his report. Our highway department used 20 plow drivers, 14 were town employees, 6 were privates. The highway department sanded and salted 5 complete times over the course of the 2 storms. They took a break 3:30 p.m. on December 2nd, went home, and they were back out again. And then on Wednesday, December 4th, the highway department scraped and sanded all secondary roads. I bring that to your attention because simultaneously, we had our police department out to respond to a carjacking, which I'm sure the chief will touch upon. The good news of that was that we responded quickly, and through the great work of our police department, there were 2 suspects apprehended that were off our streets and out of the community. So that's a win-win. And then finally, the fire department went to a structure fire on 12/6, and the chief can give you more details on that, but as you listen to it unfold, it raises the hair on the back of your neck as there's reported entrapment, live power lines, and so I bring all this to your attention because I want the board to be very aware what, you know, the work of essentially 30 employees does over the course of a week to help 12,000 residents. So this is the kind of thing that we do, and I think all of our departments are involved. I think sewer was actually out plowing as well. It was strong work on our part, and I wanted to bring it to the board's attention and the public's attention. And that's what I have for my report, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm going to take your comments before you accept your report. In reverse order, we got the notification from the fire and EMS about Charlton Road. And when you go by, it doesn't do justice. When someone says structure fire, that was it obviously was pretty bad. I mean, you can elaborate, Chief, sure, if you want to come up.
Entrapment, the hairs in the back of my neck, that's well said, Jonathan.
Yeah, so the call came in around 12:22. There was one individual in the house, but he was actually asleep. I guess the neighbors alerted him, and the police helped him out prior to our arrival. So good job for them. When we got there, the quarter of the house was fully involved. It caught the car on fire, which in turn caught the gas tank on fire. So it pretty much ripped through the whole house pretty quickly. So, I mean, we were able to bring it under control within 20 to 30 minutes, but there was hours of mop up because it was in between the eaves of the house, and in the attic space, and there was a lot of what we call overhaul, pulling ceilings, pulling insulation out. I mean, we were there for a long time, and the cold didn't help because it was like 10 degrees out that night and made the roads very slippery. I had put a call in to Vinny. He worked really well with us. I mean, I told him to wait like a half hour, 45 minutes till we got the trucks cleared up, but they were there right when we were clearing, so it worked out perfect. We ended up laying 800 feet of 5-inch hose to a hydrant, and that's how we got our water supply. But it all worked out good at the end of the day. Nobody was hurt. The fire went out and everybody went home.
Bottom line, everybody was
And
safe.
it was left undetermined. We investigated it, but we're leaving it undetermined.
Well, nice save by the neighbors, nice work by police, fire, EMS, members. You know, it's one of those things when people say, oh, what do you need this for? Well, perfect example right there.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Excellent.
Job, boys and girls.
I just want to go back to, Mr. Ruda touched on the conflict of interest training, which was actually on his last week's report. I strongly recommend, and it was a good turnout, but I strongly recommend anybody that was unable to attend to really watch that online. Attorney Riley put on a really informative, he kept it light, he kept it moving. It was a really good seminar, a lot of people, Mr. Fox was there, Joan was there. If you didn't have a chance to attend, I really think you should make the effort to look at it online. You know, just shoot an email to the town administrator saying, yeah, I had a chance to watch it. I don't care if you're a 2-week volunteer that just started working or someone that's been 40 years in the department. There was a lot of good information there, and we thank KP Law. We know it's part of our contract, but Attorney Riley coming out and running that show, and I'm not sure who the caterer was, but whoever did the catering did a nice job.
Delray Docks,
Through Michelle, right?
through Michelle.
But that was,
there was food.
that was a good time. It was very, very informative. Chief, you want to talk about your issue, or you want to wait till you do your report? You want to wait? Vinnie? Okay. Anybody other questions for the town administrator's report? Hearing none. Motion to accept?
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Old business, Abraham's Group. Mark Matt Abraham's compensation study for the town of Dudley proposal.
Mr. Chairman, before I ask you to do a 5-minute recess so that we can set up the monitor, you need the monitor set up, Matt? Okay. This is just circling back. You recall we had another firm come in and give an overview of the type of proposal that they would give and how they, their methodology they would use for their salary study and survey. So, I've asked Matt to come in. If he looks familiar, he did our capital improvement programming study under a previous grant. And so we're going to set up and give the board the opportunity to understand what type of methodology he would use to do a salary survey for us. We're not talking any numbers again tonight because based on the feedback I'm getting, it'll likely have to go out to an RFP, but he's going to talk about the type of proposal he would give.
Okay. Do you want to go to recess now?
Yes, please.
You want to wipe out all the other stuff first? We'll come back to
We
the
can.
report.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take care of new business, tentative Board of Selectmen schedule, January 20th, 2020 through June 2020. January 3rd, is accepted, is presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. As accepted, as written.
Second.
Made, seconded, this will be posted. Anybody has any questions, but essentially every other week. Motion made, seconded. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, I'm gonna skip B for 1 sec. We'll go to C. Motion to assign the town administrator the duty of acting Quinnebog River Rail Trail Rep.
So moved.
Motion made,
Second.
seconded. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to grant the highway superintendent permission to overspend snow and ice for fiscal year 20, if conditions require additional such action.
So moved.
Motion made. Seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is just,
Pro forma.
this is pro forma. We do this every year. Just to give you an example, we spent $14,159 on our first storm this year. So, this is when we get the questions about what happens, why do we have free cash and that sort of thing. It's precisely to give us the ability not to have to carry a deficit into the next year if necessary.
Absolutely. I'm gonna hold off on board member comments, but I'll go to Al for his student comments, student report.
Are we gonna vote?
Get a vote on
We
that.
gotta vote.
Oh, do we just,
Chairman.
oh, okay. Vote to, grant permission for the highway superintendent to overspend. Oh, we do it.
Yeah, we did. Who
Aye.
said vote? Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor? Unanimous. Now we'll go to Al. Sorry, Al.
That's all right. So,
Good catch, you guys.
winter sports have started in the school. Tryouts for basketball have been ongoing for the past few weeks, and winter track is starting, and wrestling and all that. Craft fair went really well. We had a really good turnout. A lot of people showed up. A lot of crafters showed up. They did a really great job. The Christmas Spectacular is coming up on the 13th. It's at 7 o'clock, and the 14th show is at 2 o'clock. $15 for adults and $10 for seniors and students. Q2 progress reports are coming out soon. In the next few days, the grades should be closing, and they'll be out in the next week, I think. The band concert is on December 18th. Holiday break is coming, and that's it.
Any questions for the student rep? Mr. Sigenovich?
Al, how was the Thanksgiving meal? I believe it was the student council put on a Thanksgiving meal?
Yeah, I went. I believe it went well. I didn't personally go, but they did a really good job, like they always do. So, I did forget one thing though. So I have an environmental project, and one of the topics that you can choose is our local economy, and strictly on business growth in our town. So one of the main sections is economic incentives to our businesses. Do we have like any economic incentives to bring in new business in this town?
We do. If you want, we can send you a copy of our TIF policy,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually, is the bylaw now?
Right.
It's a
TIF
bylaw or a
TIF policy is, give like a tax
Policy.
break.
Okay.
Just give them a break at the beginning of the term, and then at the end of the term, it's full, but you try to bring them in,
Mm-hmm.
give them a little less upfront cost.
Do we have a directory of businesses too? Is that a thing?
We do, yeah.
Okay. And I guess what type of businesses are you like looking forward towards as far as the future goes? Would you say like as far as investment and stuff like that? Looking ahead.
What do we have on the plate, what do we have on our plate right now? Or we always look to have a diversified business.
Okay.
Looking at, as he stated earlier, it's not business, but I mean, we have the mill, put apartments in, and I would assume someone's gonna do something with Schofield Ave eventually too. I mean, that
Mhm.
was a nice little hub at one time,
Mm-hmm.
so we're always trying. I mean, we
And
have,
it's the DMA project.
yep,
Mm-hmm.
DMA over here. We always try to keep businesses that we have, like we got Henke Sass and Wolf to stay in town at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other company,
Webco took advantage of the TIF and
Yeah,
they
Webco.
expanded it. Yeah.
yeah, they put a big expansion on. Several years back, Southbridge Tool and Die worked with the town to expand. We gave them like a foundation-only permit so they could do some work before the winter months. So we are proactive. We can always be more proactive.
Yeah.
You brought up a lot of good things in your short term here, so feel free to go right down your checklist, anything that you think we can do.
All right. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna tie you guys into my project for sure.
Absolutely.
We
I'll
can give you a lot more information offline too if you need it.
Awesome. Sweet. I'll definitely send it to you guys. You guys can look it over if you want. And
Perfect.
so
Thanks,
yeah.
I think Mr. Sigenovich.
Can I fin- You're the smartest guy in the room. You're multitasking. You're doing your homework while you're sitting here being the student rep. This is awesome. But seriously, do you know, are there any plans for any more community meals at the school? The reason why I ask, I remember when I went to Mason Road,
Mm-hmm.
and there used to be like an elderly dinner. I know I'm saying it wrong, but it was That's where it was geared towards seniors.
Okay.
And the seniors would then like end up volunteering, like reading books to classes or something
Mhm.
like that. Do you know if there's any ongoing plans
Yeah,
for
I
any of
mean-
that at the school?
Yeah, we, actually, I just got this today. I was selected to read for like a community reader at Mason Road, and we'll read like a short passage to the kids and do like an activity with them. But more on the high school level, I'm not very aware of dinners, but like, I mean, there's the honors dinner. I think there's one at the
Yeah, no,
beginning of the
that
year and
just-
the end of the year, but I mean, we can certainly look into it, and I have some friends of mine that I think would do a really good job with that.
If you give me a heads up, because Mr. Siganovich was asking why I didn't post it on the website for the
Okay.
Thanksgiving meal, for the community meal, so.
Okay,
all right,
I'll-
it's
I'll
perfect.
definitely do
Thank
that.
you.
all right.
Yeah, thank
Cool.
you.
Must've been on Dudley Children's website, though, I assume, right?
Couldn't find any information on it anyway. Someone asked me about it, and I had no idea when it was, and I am not razzing anybody. It just would be nice to, you
No,
know,
I-
get the information,
You
to
get the word out.
Tighter integration with, from the school and the town,
get the
probably.
full value from that seed out.
All right, we'll do.
All right, so we're gonna do the brief recess to get Matt set up. And then we'll come back afterwards, and we'll do 8B, we'll do number 9, number 11, and hopefully number 12.
All right.
Brief recess, everybody, thank you. Gas us up.
Plus or minus 30 minutes.
We good? Thank you, everyone. We're back. Due to the technological upgrades we've made in the Veterans Hall, it only took us 2 minutes as opposed to 5. This time, I will turn it over to Matt Abrams of the Abraham Group.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone.
See you again, Matt.
See you again.
Happy to be back in front of you this evening. My name is Matt Abrahams. I'm part of the Abrahams Group, and here to talk about the potential of us doing a compensation study for the town of Dudley. The Abrahams Group is made up of myself and my father, Mark Abrahams, who couldn't be here tonight. We were originally scheduled to be here last week, but because of the storm, there was no meeting and we weren't able to make it. He would have made last week's meeting, but he wasn't able to make this week's meeting.
Sorry about that.
A little background about the Abrahams Group. We are a certified public accounting firm specializing in governmental performance and operational management. We have developed best practices for several areas of local government, including IMAs, enterprise funds, and asset management. We've completed comparative studies on the efficiencies of communities' municipal operations, including school operations. As already mentioned this evening, we recently completed the Town of Dudley's comprehensive 10-year capital plan, which was presented to you in the recent past. And we are eager to assist the Town of Dudley on another project.
Matt, can we hold you up for 1 second?
Yes.
Himself wants to.
One of our members is missing, and he would like to participate remotely, so
So you need to just vote to,
vote to dial him in.
okay, yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Chair will entertain a roll call vote to remotely dial in Mr. Joseph.
I'll make a motion to do that.
Motion made and seconded, roll call vote.
Aye, Jason Johnson.
Steve Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye.
Want to call him in? You got the fancy,
He does.
1 sec, sorry, Matt.
With
No
the
problem.
kickstand and everything.
Oh, yeah, here he is. Okay. Stand by. I just, sorry, he texted me as well.
Hello?
Hi, Paul, it's John. We're on TV. We just saw your text. Do you want to participate remotely?
I wanted to since before the meeting started.
Okay, well,
I called Jay and I asked him to tell Sully, and I've been sitting here by the phone ever since.
all right, well, let me put the microphone by the, by you and me, and so you'll be able to hear. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Paul, we got the Abrahams group here, Matt Abrahams. He came in, he did the report
Yeah.
there.
I've been watching, I'm sitting here.
Okay, so we're gonna jump back in. He's just starting his presentation. Thanks, Matt.
You should put it on mute because it's going to be on delay.
If you put it on mute, you won't get
Oh.
echo.
Okay.
No.
Put it on mute, he won't hear you.
I know.
Paul, can you put yours on mute because you're going to be on delay?
Paul, can you put yours on mute because you're going to be on delay?
Okay.
Exactly.
Right, Paul, can you, yeah, mute?
all right.
Yep, you got it. All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
That's what I got.
Okay. All right, next slide. So the compensation study, our understanding is that there are 20 existing positions within the town that will be included in the study. And I've listed them for you on the slide. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are a few elected positions on here, as well as several clerks and secretaries. And our understanding is that there are also some new positions to be considered and included in the analysis. And specifically, they were mentioned as being a clerk for licensing, permitting, and code enforcement, as well as a clerk for planning, conservation, and highway. So we would be sure to include an analysis on these new positions in the study. Here's a slide on some things that we would do as part of our methodology. We would understand the town's detailed descriptions of the positions to be included in the study and the positions to be considered for consolidation. Consolidation would be done to improve efficiencies townwide and to help ensure that staff perform the duties for which they were hired. We would design a survey to be sent out to multiple communities, and we would ensure that we were collaborating with the town on those communities to make sure that the town agreed that those communities made sense. We would interview staff and positions that are part of the study to understand their regular work and contributions, to make sure that we were comfortable with the current situation in the town for those positions. We would compare the compensation and benefits of elected employees in a community or two of similar makeup to this town that has elected positions similar to Dudley's. And in addition to that, we would make sure that we're taking a look at the state average for compensation and benefits of those positions as well, and include that in our analysis. And for most of the positions in the study, which are non-elected, we would compare the compensation and benefits of those positions to similar neighboring communities. But we would also ensure that we're expanding the scope of that comparison out a little bit further to communities throughout the state. We wouldn't want to just make sure that they're neighboring ones. We'd want to make sure that there are others in the state that may be a little bit further away. And that's all I had for you tonight. Any questions or comments?
Board members. Mr. Sigenovich.
I think that's pretty straightforward. I think that's exactly what we're looking for in 5 slides or less.
Mr. Massey.
Yeah, kudos on conciseness, that was good.
Thank you.
Example of the methodology, like, we've gone through this before, you know, obviously we're doing it. Just, it's not, we find that it's not, and I was glad to see that you had both scenarios captured. It's not just the local towns around us, but the other lookalikes and, you know, not just from size, but budget and all that other stuff. That, you guys have comprehensive access to all the data you need to do that?
To compare to other towns?
Yeah, all the data you would need to put this together, you have it?
We don't currently have it. That's what the survey would be used for.
Okay.
And there is some statewide data that we would use
Okay,
for that
that's-
piece, yes.
Okay, right.
Right, I mean, we've been, I would charitably say, town's been fairly proactive the last few years. We did some internal adjustments. Previous town administrator used to bring positions up to 80%. That was his benchmark, I believe. Mr. Fox can elaborate. The Personnel Board was very proactive recently with their own salary study. So it's not an issue it's been ongoing, but it's not, I wouldn't call it languishing by any stretch. But no, Matt, I like your presentation. I think you hit all the high points. You know, most of the time, the comments or the concerns are like communities. You know, we're trying to find like size, like Kerry said, like budgets. Try to find similarities, because sometimes the neighboring ones are different set of facts and figures that won't fit what we really need. So,
Different positions,
Correct.
names and levels and.
right, I mean, the water commissioners are doing that now with their retitling their jobs, which is unionized, which wouldn't be you guys, obviously, but just apples to apples as much as possible. Mr. Johnson.
No, thank you for the presentation. It'll be interesting to see how competitive the quote is when we go to that stage.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I, through you, just a quick question, Matt. When you don't have a position, an exact match for a position, how do you handle that? Like, we're talking about consolidating a few positions, and to be quite honest with you, it's actually holding me up, because we don't know how to pay the person, or we haven't agreed on how to pay the people that might fill those positions. What sort of methodology do you use to figure out what would be a comparable salary for a combined position?
So I think in that case, we would want to take a look at communities that are similar in stature to this one and see if they have positions that are similar to the ones that are being considered for consolidation, and see if that could help guide us on what the compensation might be for that position.
How about in terms of classifying pre-existing positions? If you come to a point where you're looking at positions that exist in other towns, like towns, but they're classified in a different way, do you point that out as well, or how do you handle that?
So you're asking if there may be a different classification for
Let's say, for instance, let me give a crazy example. Let's say we had a facility supervisor who was being paid as a secretary,
Yes.
and that was just, it's wildly inappropriate. What do you do in that case?
Well, I think in that case, we would probably take a look at the roles and the responsibilities of a actual supervisor in another community, and take a look at what the compensation and benefits are for that individual, and present that as part of the analysis.
So part of the proposal would be to reclassify in that case?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Paul, can you hear us?
Paul, you have anything? Any questions, Paul? Come off mute.
Is he still on?
Paul, you're talking. You're on mute. We can't hear you. There he is.
Okay, is that better?
He sure is. We can hear you. Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry about that. Since we're providing a consultant to give us salary recommendations for a new combined position, my question is, how will that position be filled? And will any current employees lose their job because of that?
Now, mute your TV when you're talking.
Mr. Ruda, would you like to address that?
Go ahead.
That's going to be up to the Board of Selectmen to decide.
I would have to assume, I mean, Peter can come up, personnel board, it'd be posted internally, the positions would be posted internally first.
Will it be based on seniority?
Peter, how does the personnel board usually work, by seniority or by best qualified?
It will be based on a combination of things. First of all, it will be posted internally first, those two positions. There are people that are already doing parts of those positions, and they will also be asked to do some new responsibilities. Obviously, the most important...
I can barely hear Peter, but okay.
The most important thing is a person's qualifications.
Right. I would agree with that.
Does that answer your question, Paul?
No, I didn't. Can someone just summarize what Peter said?
Peter said, he said that it'd be posted internally at first, because we do have people doing certain parts or aspects of that job. Seniority may be a consideration, but first determining factor would be qualifications.
And the answer to, will current employees potentially lose their jobs? What was the answer?
I don't think that question was answered directly, but I would have to assume, I'll ask Mr. Fox to elaborate, if a successful candidate is not a current part-time employee, so the end result, yes, somebody ultimately could, I would assume.
Okay, well, that concerns me, because there is an employee, the clerk for the Conservation Department, who was harassed by other employees in the town hall, and in fact, could have gone forward with some kind of complaint, but didn't, and I worry that that person may in fact lose their job.
Executive session.
Well, we can't discuss any potential...
I'm just telling you, I don't want it, hidden under the rug. I just want that person to have a fair chance at the job.
Well, I'm just gonna, everybody's had a fair shake at any position since I've been here, but on some of the things you just touched upon, I'm not saying yes, no, pro or con. We can't be discussing things like that in open session.
And the reason we can't is...
Because you're making, I'm not gonna go down that road. We all know that we can't discuss, we're talking about the salary study. We're not discussing any potential issues that you may have just touched upon. We cannot address things like that in open session.
Okay, then you probably should have stopped me before I asked my first question. Thanks.
You're welcome. Peter?
Obviously, the reason we're here tonight is to listen to this gentleman offer his expertise in, to be considered for a salary survey. We have not reached that final decision yet until we know the facts is from whoever gets chosen to do this study, until we know the facts, and we need more data and we need more information on these combined positions. These combined positions obviously include introducing further skill base to town employees. It's our intent to have skill-based town employees, and obviously the Personnel Board certainly does not want to have an impact on people's positions or whether they're going to keep positions. But I think Mr. Sullivan is correct that that should not be discussed right now, tonight. I think the topic we're discussing is the wage study. And I think a lot of work and answers have to be addressed in the wage study before we can go forward with any other questions on how the job will be posted and what the wording is going to be and what the qualifications have to be. But I think right now we should continue getting further information.
I agree.
Agreed.
Paul, did you hear Peter?
Yep.
Okay. Al?
So is this study essentially a, I guess, a tabular way of showing job title, job description, then salary compared to other towns as far as being quote-unquote apples to apples with population size and budget?
Yes, I can see that being part of the results of the study, yes.
Okay. All right.
Any department heads have any questions from Mr. Abrahams? Anybody else questions, Mr. Abrahams?
Any considerations, Mr. Chairman? For the scope, anything?
I don't know, Jonathan put out the proposal, the scope would have been included, right?
Yeah, no, we haven't put it out to RFP yet. We will
Oh, it's informational?
tomorrow, probably. Well, I'll go to work on it tomorrow, so we can get going on that.
Okay.
Good.
Mr. Massey?
Do you have any questions for us?
No, not at this time.
Paul, you go to Mr. Abrahams?
I'm okay.
The only other comment that I have is that Personnel Board is certainly going to be available if we can assist in any way if information needs to be provided to have a successful study.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll just coordinate right now, we're gonna coordinate through the town administrator, get the proposal drawn up, come up with a set of parameters and guidelines and see how it goes.
Great.
Right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Matt.
thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Shall I need a recess to disassemble, or he just unplugs and he's all done?
No, we can keep going.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go back to, on the new business, B, we overpassed that over, we had town administrator progress review. I was not at the last meeting, unfortunately, I had to miss. I did review the tape, I did speak to, town administrator. I talked, Michelle sent me out an email, so at this point, has all the board members completed their employee performance review form for the town administrator's 6-month review?
Yes.
Yes.
Have they all, everybody submitted it to we're gonna submit it to Michelle for tabulation, is that how we were gonna do it, or?
I mean, I can do that. I can tell you how I rated them
I think that's.
in each of the 5 areas.
Okay.
The tabulation.
Okay, all right, so I guess, all right, so we're going to, Paul, do you have your copy in front of you?
I do.
Okay,
Hold on, let me make a table.
so,
What do you want me to do?
I'm gonna have, John Massey, write down everybody's grade. How's the board wanna handle this? Does somebody wanna go first and do their whole report? Do we wanna go across the board, do each section one by one, and then go to the next one?
I volunteer
It
to
might
go
be easier for John to score if we just all do one first.
Okay.
I'll do one.
All right, Mr. Johnson just offered to go first.
Horizontally and vertically are the same. Takes the same amount of time.
You
Go
questioning his chart
perpendicularly.
No, I'm questioning the
methodology?
veracity of the statement saying that
Oh.
going one at a time would be quicker.
All right, so Paul, Jay's gonna go first, and he's gonna start with, page 2, section 1, under primary job duty, performance criteria. The heading is relationship with the board and town meeting. The weight is 20%. I'm just reading so people at home. Performance criteria, performance is successful if the town administrator regularly makes a professional recommendation to the board on items requiring board action, interprets, executes the intent of board policy, maintains a professional, impartial, and effective working relationship with the board, responds to public inquiries at town meeting with clear communication, provides sufficient documentation and presentation to the board and the town meeting. And just for the people at home, the categories are, and weighted by point, a 4 would be the best, down to a 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Under the categories of exceeds expectation would be a 4, meet expectations would be a 3, satisfactory would be a 2, unsatisfactory would be a 1, which would trigger a remedial development plan between the town administrator, the chairman, and the board. At that point, I will turn it over to Mr. Johnson for his comments and his grading.
It is my opinion that the TA meets expectations in making professional recommendations to the board on items requiring board action. TA meets the expectations of this board for interpreting, executing the intent of the board. The TA sufficiently maintains a professional, impartial, and effective working relationship with the board. He sufficiently,
Are we doing this by bucket, the five, you have 5 scores for me, Jay?
no, this is 1 score for all of number 1.
All of number 1, we're gonna go 1, 2,
We give one number for each.
section.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
5 sections, so we should have 5 scores.
Right, Jay said he gave a meets expectation, which would be a 3, and then he's just giving you his comments as to
Okay.
why. Continue.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was writing the right things down, Jay. Sorry.
3.
Got it.
Good with your comments?
I'm done.
I also gave him a 3. In my comments, I put, he presents in a concise and organized manner. He advocates when necessary on the town's behalf, otherwise maintains neutrality as a town administrator should. Mr. Massey,
For 1?
you gave him a 1?
No. For a relationship with board and town meeting we're on, right? I gave him a meets expectations. He's working with the board of selectmen to improve how everyone works together.
Mr. Sigenovich,
I gave him a 3, meets expectations. I think his town administrator reports every week are excellent. They cover a lot of different topics and quite well. And also, he has started a new program as far as retaining documents and documenting things and communicating it with us. And he's asked for input on this form for the direction of the board/chairman. So I think he definitely meets expectations for the first section.
Paul, section 1?
Yep, I gave him a 4, exceeds expectations. I don't think that there's tremendous room for improvement. He does a really good job in each of the 5 areas, and for me, it's not a question of improvement. It's more a question of him just maintaining what he's currently doing.
Excellent. Section 2 is communication with the Board of Selectmen, performance criteria. Town administrator shall keep the Board of Selectmen fully informed by A, responding to and initiating improved communication efforts, B, recognizing that any issue or change that directly or significantly impacts the community falls on the Board of Selectmen's authority to provide feedback, C, allowing the Board of Selectmen the opportunity to provide feedback on policy initiative and changes before implementation, D, involving Board of Selectmen in the determination of collective bargaining strategies for the current contract process, keeping selectmen up to date on the progress. E, ensuring that all selectmen are aware of anything significant before it appears in the press. You want to just keep going in order? You want to mind going first again, Mr. Johnson? or-
No problem with that.
Thank you.
I believe the town administrator has met my expectations as a board member for keeping the board fully informed. It's rare that I come into a meeting and I have not, we haven't already been informed of what's going to be spoken about that night. So the agenda's always out, so I appreciate that. In terms of communication in general, installing the monitors is a great way to more easily describe what's going on in the presentations that we have from the outside. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So that's a 3.
Thanks.
I also gave him a 3. I think that Jonathan has done a good job picking up on issues that were left by the prior TA. and he's done a good job in restarting issues that were overlooked or not previously committed. Jonathan is maybe more, I'm the chairman, I speak to him maybe a little bit more than others, but he's always available. We speak quite often. He's always quick to call me with a question or a concern or a heads up. He's always available by cell phone 24/7, so I gave him a 3. Mr. Massey?
Okay, for communication with Board of Selectmen, I gave him exceeds expectation, in my expectations. Probably the best TA communication I've seen in my tenure on the board, just from the matter of things that you guys had mentioned. Just like I said, the manner of communication to the, not just to us, but to the community, you know, with the monitors, but his written reports are outstanding. Sometimes we get it in advance of things as they happen, so we're informed. I don't feel like I'm out of the loop at all. So there's, especially on some of these projects that were passed over from the last administrator, so I give him a 4.
Mr. Sigenovich?
On number 2, communication with the Board of Selectmen, I gave the town administrator an exceeds expectation of 4. I feel that I have more than enough information that I need to make decisions when I need to vote on a motion before the board. I feel like I'm not behind the 8 ball. I feel like I'm getting information well ahead of time than when I need it. I don't feel like I'm in the dark on anything, so I gave him a 4. He exceeds my expectations.
Paul, section 2?
I also gave Jonathan a 4, and I did that for 2 reasons. One is I can't imagine him providing us with more information as a group than what he has made a strong effort to do since he's been town administrator. But I also base that on the several, I compare him to the several town administrators that have served since I became the selectman years ago, 16 years ago. So in my mind, there's no question it's a 4.
Thank you. Next up is fiscal management. Town administrator shall plan and organize the preparation of an annual budget, develop and prepare budget recommendations in conformance with public policy, plan, organize, administer the adopted budget within approved revenues and expenditures. Mr. Johnson?
The TA has done an exemplary job managing the collection of the budget proposal, developing budget recommendations, and once again, satisfactorily administrating the adopted budget, at least for the few months that we've had one. So I'm going to give him a 4.
I gave him a 3. My comments were, but not limited to, he presented a sound supplemental budget at the fall town meeting. Jonathan, in his short time, with his experience as a selectman, obviously, has got a good grasp on revenue sources, funding sources, in conjunction with our financial team. He keeps a good eye on the balances. I know he works well with the department heads and administering their budget without overstepping anybody's authority by micromanaging their use of their financial resources. So I gave him a 3. Mr. Massey?
Under fiscal management, number 3, I gave him a 4, exceeding my expectations, and I wrote, Jonathan came up to speed very quickly and delivered a budget that works for the town. Town meeting accepted it without question, and we also have had grants that have been acquired and or saved. So those are things that will, help us throughout the year. And I do echo the teamwork with the department heads to get that done, so 4.
Mr. Sigenovich?
I gave him a 4 and exceeds expectations on fiscal management, and the reason why is because this section only deals with the budget. He has gone above and beyond the budget. He has revived the solar program at the Old Town Dump. He's gotten us grants for numerous things. He's working. I know people in town have said, well, there's all these grants for things, what about me? And now we've hopefully got this grant to help folks have up to $40,000 to do things to their home. I mean, I cannot, unless he reduced the tax rate to 0, I don't know how he could have done a better job of fiscal management. That's why I gave him a 4.
We'll make that a goal and objective. Paul, section 3?
Yeah, I was a little hesitant about how to score this one. There were 3 things. One refers to the annual budget, but the other 2 refer to ongoing budgets and existing budget. So on the second and third, John, don't write the score down yet.
No, I won't.
On the second and third, he's clearly exceeded expectations. But on the first, he has yet to go through an entire budget formulation policy from the get-go. So I didn't know how to score that one. So I'm going to leave that one blank and note that for the second and third ones, he exceeds expectations.
Okay. So,
That's a 4.
okay, 4 for 2 and, assuming that you're gonna hold off on 1, you give him a 4 on 2 and 3 out of the category?
Absolutely. When we get to the annual, we'll have all 3 under consideration.
Okay, perfect. The fourth criteria was fiscal year 20 projects. Performance criteria. Town administrator shall develop specific recommendations for consideration by the select board to address ongoing challenges, to include A, a compensation study, 2019 implementation, physical security improvements, including identification of funding sources, C, human resource administration improvements and policy updates, publication, advertising of board initiatives. An example would be public awareness campaign focused on the DPW study committee. Mr. Johnson?
Well, I think the town administrator has done a great job of starting off with, everything mentioned there, plus other things like the solar credits come to mind. Finding opportunities to stem some issues going on already. The expectations of improving the human resource administration within the town are high. The concept proposal, well done in concept, so it's development of the plan that will be important, because it should be done in consideration of the town administration's greatest assets, the people that do work in the town. So I'd hope that would be a lot of face-to-face. So that's a 4.
4J?
4. I also gave him a 4 in part of my comments, and again, not limited to. I said he'd been able to procure grants in a short time and has been able to use his state contacts to retrieve grants that had not been completed by the previous town administrator. And Jay touched on a couple of them. Kerry did in his last section. The recycling, the old landfill kind of language, we were able to retrieve that. There was another grant that Jonathan, based on his time at the state, was able to reach out to a former colleague that allowed us to get back in the good graces, receive a grant that had expired that we hadn't used. So that's what I kind of looked at. The other stuff, the physical security improvements, I know that's an ongoing issue that police and fire are involved with, and the human resource administration aspect of it, we passed the bylaw at town meeting. Jonathan works with everybody, including personnel board, I believe, and I think he's exceeded my expectation in a short time what he did, and that's why I gave him a 4. Mr. Massey?
Okay, for number 4, fiscal year 20 projects, I also gave him a 4. I think our projects that are starting are going really well, that are still in flight. The ones that he inherited, which were kind of a mess, to be fair, he's righted those, put those back on the rails, and not just any projects, he's taking on projects that are more, they're more forward-thinking for Dudley. Like I said, the better, displays and communication in this room, for example. Talking to some businesses that you may not have considered coming in to town in the past. Really like getting that's set up for, for us to take a good look at all the information there. So there's a lot of projects, and I think he's used his program management background in full effect, so I gave him a 4.
Mr. Sigenovich?
I gave him a 4 for number 4. He exceeds expectations because everything that's listed here, the compensation study, the physical security improvements, human resources administration improvements, policy updates, we were getting multiple policy updates just about every meeting there for a while. He's done everything on this list, and in addition, what's not listed here, he was flexible enough to look into a cybersecurity grant, which I know it hasn't happened recently, but if you look in the newspaper a month or two ago, there was some neighboring communities that had some difficulty with that. He saw that, and he proactively proposed something so that it wouldn't happen here. And I mean, like I said, he went above and beyond what's listed here, so I gave him a 4. He exceeds my expectations.
Paul?
Yeah, well, this is probably the most solid of all of my grades from a personal perspective. Jonathan has said both publicly and privately on many occasions that his plate has been full or is full. And I can't imagine a more true statement than that. Whether it's what you said, John Massey, that there's a number of things that were left undone that none of us really knew about previously, that he's had to pick up, surprisingly. But in addition to that, he's added a number of projects on his own. The test now, the test of time, will be, can he continue these during the rest of the fiscal year, because we're not even halfway through it yet, and will he have room on his plate to do these things? But I have no doubt that my grade of a 4 is accurate.
Section 5, Employee Community Intergovernmental Relations Performance Criteria. Town Administrator models sound personnel procedures and practices and oversight of human resource functions. Leads, directs, develops reporting town hall staff. Develops good staff morale and loyalty to the town. Recruits and assigns the best available personnel in terms of their competencies. Leads a negotiation of labor contracts representing town interest and board guideline. Coaches and expects that an attitude and feeling of helpfulness, courtesy, sensitivity to public perception exists in employees coming in contact with the public. Represents the town to the media as the chief public relations spokesperson on town government issues. Maintains awareness of development and plans in other jurisdictions. Mr. Johnson.
The town administrator meets expectations and models the behaviors we want to see in town hall. TA satisfactorily leads the town hall staff and has shown the ability to avoid management by email and instead leading these endeavors by meeting in person with employees. Town administrator is in early stages developing the staff morale and is tapping into their experience. The TA is meeting expectations and negotiating contracts and is developing his style and coaching the town employees. Town administrator is maintaining awareness of developments and plans in other jurisdictions, so I'm saying a 3.
I also gave Jonathan a 3, and again, my comments are, but not limited to, has consistently led the town hall employees through engagement and open dialogue. He has a true open door policy. There hasn't been a time that I've stopped in, Michelle will text me and have me come in and sign something, or come and, read something, and somebody's in there, one of the department heads, a town hall employee, Jonathan's just getting off the phone, or as Mr. Johnson said, he's good about getting the message out to everybody. I haven't heard anything negative. I would think if something was not right, we would have heard about it. So again, I gave him a 3. I think he meets the expectations. Mr. Massey.
Okay, thanks. For number 5, employee community intergovernmental relationships, I gave him meets expectations of 3. I think you guys have said a lot of the stuff that I would say as well. I think he's really working with the staff that we have and their deep knowledge of improving how we do business, and it's working with them to get to the next level of how we serve the town. And Jay, I'm gonna repeat what you said, displaying the behaviors we'd want to see. here, so I can give him.
Thank you, Mr. Sigenovich.
For number 5, I gave the town administrator a 3, meets expectations. One thing that I'd like to point out from this, number 1, model sound personnel procedures and practices and what have you. One thing that I've noticed is when others have gone home, he's still here. And I think that's something a leader should do, is to model, not saying everyone should work extra, but just the point of modeling that sort of behavior, I imagine would raise morale in the town hall, as opposed to someone leaving at 9:15 on a Friday. Not saying that someone did, but when someone's staying till 5, 6 o'clock on a Friday night, I think that sends a good message.
Absolutely. What was the score? 4?
That was a 3.
3. Paul?
Yeah, this one was another interesting one, and I finally settled on a 3, meets expectations. I almost did a 4, but I settled on a 3, and I will say publicly what I've said to Jonathan privately on more than one occasion, that he needs to be extremely cautious and not let prior relationships influence his decisions as the town administrator. So I gave him a 3.
Excellent. So this would conclude our 4.5-step grading process. If we want to give Mr. Massey a couple of minutes to tabulate. Hang on, Paul.
Yep.
How are you grading that one?
Divided by 4. Divided by 4. No.
So this one, so Paul, we have an issue of your number 3
Partial grade.
partial grade.
So my number 3, which was fiscal management, I think that number 1 is premature. So for 2 and 3, I think he's exceeded expectations, and I'll leave it as a 4, with the anticipation that the first portion of this one I'll be able to comment on completely on the annual review.
Same thing, 3.6.
You got that?
So 4
Yep.
total?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks,
So I'll
Paul.
give you a 4 total, all right. All right, thank you, guys. I thought you were leaving it blank, and it was hard to, like, come up with the score, so I'll give you a 4 total for that box. All right,
Yes.
so,
Do an overall.
yep,
Well, so, based on the concise scoring graph that Mr. Massey just so adroitly whipped together,
really did.
under section 1, I'm not going to reread everything, the relationship with board and town meeting, 3.2. Section 2, communication with the Board of Selectmen, 3.6. Section 3, fiscal management, 3.6, and it's noted, we're going to go back at the annual review and give weight to the creation of the annual budget. Section 4, fiscal 20 projects, it was a 4. Section 5, employee, community, intergovernmental relations was a 3. And Mr. Massey has informed me that if you add that all up and divide it by 5, it comes in at a 3.48, which puts Jonathan firmly in the middle of meets expectations and exceeds expectations on his overall job performance. Does anybody have anything they would like to add or change at this time?
No.
Not add, but maybe a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, comments.
Mr. Johnson?
Just one comment. Anyone in a new position, especially the first few months, shouldn't worry about any kind of continuous improvement being mentioned. It's obviously, when we start new jobs, we come in having some preconceived notions, and then we have loads of experience typically, and then you see what it really is and make the adjustments. There's nothing wrong with that. I think you're doing a great job doing that.
Thank you.
I agree with Jay.
Well said, actually.
I agree, Jonathan obviously had some institutional knowledge by being a selectman and a former planning board member, but anybody can be the Indian, but then when you could become the chief, it can be a difficult transition. I think Jonathan has met, as we said on his grading, he's met virtually every challenge. He's taken on things that had fallen through the cracks or were not completed previously. And as Jay said, continuous improvement's hard when you're starting off new, but you can always get better. And I just look forward to Jonathan continuing in his role and continuing to grow and continue to do what's best in the interest of the town. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Mr. Massey?
Yeah, I'll echo what you both said. Mr. Johnson in particular, it's easy to forget that Mr. Ruta's only been here really since, what, July 1st?
June 1st.
June 1st, excuse me. And, coming into a new job, like you said, the expectation of what you think you know, and then reality, and then having to adjust is a real thing. And, Jonathan, you did it amazingly well. I knew you would. I said it to everybody who asked me when you took this job. I think if, I'm gonna just say it, I think if we had picked anybody else, we would have had a different discussion tonight, just from the learning curve alone.
Mm-hmm.
So just how far you've pushed the ball ahead in 6 months has been impressive. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Siganovich?
I'm more than pleased with the way things have turned out so far the past 6 months. I mean, you're just getting your feet wet. I can't wait to see what's going to happen over the next couple of years. Definitely a good decision bringing you on board in this role, and looking forward to what comes next.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, my scores speak for themselves, but I have to say, in summary, that overall, Jonathan clearly has exceeded my expectations, and I'm grateful that he has.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So at this point, I don't think I need a motion to accept the scoring tabulation.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
made Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Massey. Again, any questions, concerns, or changes? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
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 Unanimous. At this point, I'd like to open the floor for a couple of minutes to Mr. Ruda if he wants to state anything to the board or to the public.
Well, I mean, there's a few observations, Mr. Chairman, and first of all, I'd like to, of course, thank every member of the board for the patience that they've shown me over the course of the first 6 months or so. I know that there was, it was seemingly an easy decision, but it was in some cases a politically difficult decision to hire me into the position, and I think of that every day I come to work. So, I hope I can continue to continue to earn your trust, and remind me not to play poker with Paul anytime soon as well.
Hear that, Paul?
Yeah, and that's probably a wise decision on his part.
Paul rings the bell every time he's happy.
I'm sorry that comes through. That just tells me there's a message for me.
Oh, I thought it was teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
Oh,
No, but at least it's a pleasant tone.
yes. Not like your ringtone.
All right, next up,
This is for Sally to sign.
departmental communications, board member comments. Mr. Johnson?
Talking about the process we just went through, I think it was pretty clear that I wasn't a big fan of it. Still not. I think the method of collecting the information should be, to be added to the performance review was insufficient in creating a review that would first determine an easy way of analyzing key metrics. And that's on the board, not on the town administrator. What I'd love to see from any of the leaders in town would be a self-assessment with the key facts, figures, trends, timelines, and other evidence of successfully meeting the requirements other than our estimation and a narrative of what we think went on. I think you can prove the work you've done, and you've done it well, and that should stand on its own. So, you know, maybe someday in the future, we can look at that differently.
I just want to thank board members, my fellow board members, and Michelle, our administrative assistant, for getting everybody collated on this. I know when Mr. Fox was on the Board of Selectmen, performance reviews were big. We kind of did some fits and starts. Some years we had everybody done on time, and some years we didn't. We had self-evals coming in late and early. I'd like to, like I said, thank the board. This was a good process going forward. We can push this template onto other department heads that report to us, so we can, as Jay said, everyone's on the same page. We have everything developed and going forward. I also like to hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving season. Sorry I missed a couple meetings there. I had a little health issue. Well, actually, I had several health issues. And I just want to thank everyone in town for their well wishes, their kind thoughts. I especially want to thank Dudley Fire and EMS, who graciously provided me transportation on a couple occasions when I needed it. I woke the fire chief up at 6:15 in the morning one day, and he was off with his wife. I'd forgotten he had something going on, and I'd like to thank the fire chief too for everything that everybody did for me, and specifically firefighter paramedics Eric Spall and Lyle McKay, who picked me up a couple times and made sure I got to where I needed to go. So I thank everyone for everything. Thank you. Also, I missed the tree lighting, but from my understanding, it was a smashing success. Mrs. Claus from Lincoln Point with her elves took care of everything, and somehow they got Mr. Santa on top of the truck and brought him in too. So, again, a nice community event. A little bit of snow doesn't hurt the town of Dudley. We made it.
That's right.
Mr. Massey.
Yeah, I just want to say, it was an early snow season started. I'm noticing people are reaching out to us through Facebook Messenger now to sort of like request, hey, can we come look at this road? So I thought you guys did a great job like responding to them, and Vinny, your team did a great job, just kind of staying ahead and stuff for such an extended storm. So thanks for that.
Mr. Siganevich.
Yes, to piggyback on Mr. Marcy, Vinny, the roads were great. There was no, in some communities I drive through, you can definitely tell where the borders were. This storm, I couldn't tell where it was, so good job. I was at the Christmas tree lighting, and there were a number. I didn't realize there were so many children in town, but it was good to see so many smiling faces. It's good to see Santa was able to ride the fire truck in. And one thing I want to make note of, I mean, I've said more than once we have excellent public safety in town. That night I was speaking with a couple of officers from the police department, just idle chit-chat, and they were talking to some children and just being little community ambassadors. And I believe later that night was the incident up the street involving the armed issue. And I just want to give kudos to them. I know Officer Remillard, for one, I spoke with. He was with some children for a while, and it's good to see that both our firefighters, paramedics, and our police officers, they can wear both hats. They can be community-facing, friendly, just really good ambassadors of the community. And on the other hand, they can put the other hat on and do their job. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Oh.
Yeah, two quick things. One is the poet Robert Angel once said that the nicest things we can give our children are roots and wings. And the roots are the traditions of the town. Mm-hmm. And I certainly want to thank Mary Devlin, Brian, and Don Germain for starting the Christmas tree tradition. And Deb Thibodeau, who knew someone who had a tree farm So instead of cutting down a tree every year, we could get one transplanted to the front lawn, and every year it gets larger, and so doesn't the event. And I especially want to thank Michelle for all of the tremendous hard work that she does in making that happen and happen successfully. The second thing is that I hope you can understand my disappointment at the beginning of the meeting when I wasn't able to comment on the passing of Ken Butkevich. Ken was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. Many times he volunteered for things around town and things that people never knew about. He often served the food during the Blessed Back Brigade meals. And I want to say that I think people are on the right track, but we should not underestimate what he did. So I would propose that we consider for the future not only naming the rail trail within Dudley's borders for Ken, but that we establish signs at both ends of the town rail trail portion and put it up there, put signs that say that this is the Kenneth Butkevich Dudley Rail Trail. And finally, that each parking area that gains access also includes similar signs. Thank you.
Right,
You know-
just one comment for
Mr. Massey?
Paul. You know that Brian still watches our meetings on TV, so he'll be happy, I'm sure, that you mentioned him. Just wanted to comment on that.
Appropriately, and I'm glad he still does.
Yes.
Paul, I'm gonna tell you a quick story too before we bring the department heads up. I don't know if you remember this, a few years back, Angel got its wings. We had a person call the town hall and volunteered to have one of their trees dug up, and he said, you can have the tree and bring it to the town hall. So the former highway superintendent and I took a ride up. It was like 70 feet tall. The guy thought we were gonna come and take this massive fir tree out of his front yard. We thanked him for his donation.
The
but
one
we-
out front is gonna be 70
Yeah.
feet tall before you know it.
we're not-
You know what's neat, Sully? Is that since we got a tree that was certainly not that tall, that people who attend year after year and take pictures will be able to document the growth of that tree as well as the growth of the event.
Exactly, absolutely.
It's definitely gotten bigger.
Departmental communications, highway,
He's gonna grab him by the shoulder.
Mr. Paletta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to report to everybody that the new street sweep is in. I came in November 25th, but there was a little bit of a glitch on paying for it, but Rich is working on it real well for me, and he expects to get the money secured by 30 days from now, so. But it's been in if you want to come in and take a look at it. It's at the garage. I wanted to thank the police chief, the fire chief, Jonathan and Michelle for getting the word out for the parking ban. It worked perfect. Fewer and fewer violations every storm. It's definitely working. The Twitter, the town's webpage and Facebook and the rave. It actually works good. However, we got a few complaints on some of the bylaws that are already in place for people discharging snow onto the road, people not shoveling their sidewalks that are abutters, and some of the mailboxes got knocked over, and I think we need to put some of that on the town webpage. And my biggest question on the bylaws is enforcing. So I don't know if we can have a discussion some night on how to enforce these bylaws. That's kind of a concern of mine.
Absolutely, just coordinate with Jonathan, we'll make it an agenda item, you, yourself, and the
Yep.
police chief.
Unfortunately, had two snowplows broke this storm. They're both broke. They were both broken on private roads, two separate private roads. About $400 worth of damage on one and $480 worth of damage on the other. So that's $880, poof, gone. On the
Which
private
roads, Vinnie?
roads.
Through the chair.
Causeway Shores and Norman Lane. is just rocks and ledge sticking out of the roads. I mean, you'd break a bulldozer plowing snow on them roads, never mind a snow plow.
We're gonna have to, not sorry to interrupt, Vinnie, we're gonna have to address those issues going forward, because it's always been, it's been stated publicly, at least as long as I've been on the board, I know Paul, that we'll maintain these roads, but if we start losing equipment, pieces of equipment go down, something's gonna have to give, so we're gonna have to take a look at that.
Mr. Chairman, I was able to revitalize, with the help of Michelle and the assessor's office, the road betterment project. At least getting the word out, and Vinnie provided us with some information. So what I can say is that we have gotten at least the information about the program into residents' hands of private roads. We're planning on having a spring meeting to give them more information as to how to get their, bring their road up to meeting the standard to be approved by the town. Unfortunately, that lapse in time kind of has put us in this position between the time that we came out with the road betterment policy
Snow.
and getting it out. So,
Okay.
I mean, I'm absolutely open to the board's guidance in terms of what we're gonna do for the rest of the winter if the highway's already breaking equipment on these roads.
Yeah. Gonna have to be addressed at some point. We can't just keep good money after bad.
It's that the dirt roads, that there's nobody taking care of them, and they just get worse and worse and worse every year. There's no incentive for anybody to keep them in better condition than they're at.
Right. Keep working with Jonathan.
Yeah, the town administrator did give a good report. I just wanted to say there was a total of 271 and a quarter hours of overtime that the highway and sewer department put in. Just the town employees put in overtime on these back-to-back storms. Very proud of everybody that works there. They did an outstanding job. And
Yeah, the call they started coming in pretty fast.
Yeah.
Everything was great, wide open. I mean, Mr. Johnson was up bright and early one day on the text line sending out.
Yeah, I went to work that day,
Yeah.
both days, thank you.
yeah, yeah. Usually the first storm you're a little bit rusty, but I tell you, everybody shined really well out there. They did an awesome job.
Excellent.
And that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for the superintendent?
Great job.
Fire and EMS? Thank you. Police?
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, first off, good to see all the kind words on Ken Bakevich, because we had quite a few conversations over the years on a lot of things, and he's missed because he was a dedicated person to a lot of things in the town. Thank you to Michelle and the rest of the crew that worked on the tree lighting time, because as you know, that was the time too when school was canceled, so a lot of the events had to shift, and so she did a great job shifting on the fly with everything there. And the fire department made sure Santa Claus got here on time, so everything went really well on that end. Yeah, a couple things on that evening. We had that incident down at the Dollar General store. It's certainly a couple things in there where people have to be aware of folks, again, not allowing them in your vehicles or those types of things. That's kind of an obvious thing to consider. But our guys did a really good job with that. It all developed over by where the wash tub is on Oxford Ave, and that moved to when the officers responded down there. They were able to track the individuals' prints in the snow and led them over to a residence. And so they had to apply for a search warrant that night in order to get both people and property back. So it was a lot of work, but really worked out very well. So we're glad it happened and the way it did. And it was Officer Remillard and Sergeant Cipatelli and Officer Ferrera and Officer Boyd, I think, that all did all the work on that stuff. So they did a great job with that whole thing. So we're glad, again, it came out to a successful conclusion. So certainly they're doing a great job with a lot of things that are going on out there. Thanksgiving Eve, too, that's always a busy night. We had all the bars open pretty heavy for that, so things went fairly well. A couple disturbances, few other calls. I sent you all my report for the month, so you'll have that outlining some events that took place over the time. So a couple things we have is This Saturday is our annual gun buyback program. So if anybody have any firearms that they wish to get rid of, or even ammunition or anything else like that, we'll be taking it between 9 and 1 down here at the police department. So sometimes people have old guns that they want to get rid of, or things they inherited and they don't know what to do with them. If you turn them in, you get gift cards for probably Park and Shop or the local supermarkets. So it's a little incentive for people to do that. It's all run through the UMass Hospital, and so that'll be taking place again 9 to 1 on Saturday. If people have them and can't get them down here, we can also go pick them up. So we ask people to call our station and try to make an appointment. We'll have somebody go up and pick it up from you. And the last thing I guess we're doing is we have the our Christmas gift drive. So we'll be giving those out. It was kind of a shorter time this year because Thanksgiving was late. So sometimes it hasn't gotten ramped up, but we usually do those distributions, especially where Christmas is falling this year. We're probably going to do them right around the end of the week before. So it only gives us about another week and a half to 2 weeks to gather some things. So if anybody's looking to make some donations, perfect opportunity. We usually serve anywhere between 25 and 35 families on an average. So every little bit helps. So that'd be it, unless you got any questions or anything.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Water sewer. Superintendent George Petrinos. Congratulations, George, finally, officially.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Just to let everybody know, we did do our final leak detection for this year, and we've buttoned up the town, ready for the winter. I just want to make a comment. We've been finding a lot of residents having leaks close to their foundations with this leak detection, and even during the course of the year. It doesn't have to be a 20-year-old house, a 30-year-old house, 40-year-old house, or even a 100-year-old house. If you have a water line, you may end up with a problem if you find water coming through your cellar. Give us a call if it becomes a constant thing where you think it might be groundwater and it's constantly running. We're finding a lot of residents allowing that to happen, and they're going as far as trying to fix their cellars, and then they find out that it's not, it's a water leak. We can hear it by listening to it on the shutoffs in the street, and also actually people can actually hear it inside their houses sometimes. If they go up to their water meter and where they comes into the house, and they can actually hear it running right there. So if you hear some kind of noise coming from your water meter area like that, give us a call. We'll come in and do an investigation, check it out. It's just a matter of that a lot of times when the lines were put in the resident houses from contractors, they weren't bedded properly. So in time, things just start compressing down, and sometimes they puncture the line, whether it be copper, plastic, and even copper from age and flaring and things like that. So just food for thought on that.
You know, with George up there too, beginning of the meeting, we should have also noted former Water Department employee Lenny Beatty, wife passed away recently.
Yes, she did, a couple weeks back.
Wasn't here, I don't know if the board noted it all.
There wasn't any big service or anything like that. I did go to his house and sat down with him for a while and stuff, and it was something a little bit unexpected of how it happened. She was fighting multiple sclerosis for a long time. I guess she had some kind of operation and just complications arose. So, but he's doing well. He still cracked a joke at the service and that. So. He's still Lenny.
That's Lenny, but again, we should have, as a board, we send out our sympathies to Lenny's family.
Very sad.
Thanks, George. Any further comments, questions from the crowd? Al, you good?
I want a 2-hour delay on Wednesday. Vinny, can you help me out with that?
Al, I like the way you advocate for yourself.
Next up on the agenda, 12, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Paul.
Wait, no, we gotta do a roll call vote, Paul.
Yeah, we're gonna roll call you out now, Paul. Roll call. Mr. Johnson.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye.
Paul?
Oh, I get to vote on getting myself out?
You do.
For adjournment.
Oh, okay, aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, Paul. See you guys. Good night.
Now-